All right, welcome. Today, we're going to do a little linguistic detective work. We are tracking a single word, a word we all think we know, but one that might have lost its very soul in translation. A word that has truly shaped our world, faith.
So, let's just jump right in. When you hear that word faith, what's the first thing that pops into your head? I mean, what does it really mean to you?
For a lot of us, it's probably something like this, right? It's this idea that you believe something. You believe it firmly, even though there's no hard proof. It's often framed as this kind of mental leap you have to take in the dark.
Yeah, it's become something that happens entirely inside your own head. It's a private thing, a cognitive act. You either agree with a set of ideas or you don't. It's basically an internal opinion.
But here's the twist, and this is the whole point of our investigation today. What if the original meaning of faith wasn't about a private opinion at all? What if it describes something so solid, so reliable, you could literally build your life on it?
To solve this mystery, we have to go way back. We have to go back to the source code, you could say. And our journey begins with the ancient Hebrew word emunah.
See, in Hebrew, emunah isn't about just passively believing something is true. Nope, it is active. It's about steadfastness. It describes a deep, loyal trust in someone's character. Think of it less like a thought and more like a posture, a reliable way you live your life.
And to really get it, you've got to look at its root, the word aman. This root has a very physical meaning. It means to be firm, stable, established. Imagine a sturdy pillar supporting a heavy roof, or a parent holding a child securely. That's the feeling. It's all about stability and support.
Now this is where it gets really fascinating. Emunah is part of a whole family of Hebrew words, all built on this rock-solid idea of reliability. When you say amen, you're actually using that same root to declare that something is firm and true. The word for truth itself, emet, means a reality that is stable and endures. An oman, or a craftsman, is someone whose skill is proven and reliable. They all share that same DNA of stability.
And this distinction is absolutely crucial. The Hebrew concept isn't about belief that a list of facts is true. It's about belief in a person, a deep relational trust, kind of like the confidence you have in a loyal friend or a family member you can always count on.
Okay, so our word's journey continues. As the Hebrew scriptures were translated into Greek, emunah became pistis. And this is where the first subtle but important shift in meaning starts to happen.
Now, in the Greek world, pistis was a huge social concept. It meant trust, loyalty. It was the glue that held together everything from business contracts to political alliances. But, and this is a big but, pistis could also mean the evidence that creates the trust, things like a pledge, a testimony, or even a proof.
So pistis kind of had a few different jobs. It was that social bond, for sure, but it was also a rhetorical tool. A speaker would use pistis, their proofs, to persuade an audience. And then you had philosophers like Plato, who saw pistis as just opinion, a lower form of knowing, not true certain knowledge, which they called episteme. The intellectual seed had been planted. The idea was already starting to move into the head.
And that brings us to the final and most dramatic transformation. This happened as the concept traveled through Latin and into English, filtered through centuries of philosophy that prized the power of the human intellect above everything else.
You can almost picture this whole process like a funnel. At the top, you pour in this big, broad, active Hebrew concept of emunah. It gets a little narrower when it's translated into the social Greek word pistis. Centuries later, theologians like Thomas Aquinas define it primarily as an act of the mind. And finally, the Enlightenment shrinks it down even more, placing faith in direct opposition to reason.
And this definition right here from Thomas Aquinas, well, it was a major turning point. Faith became an act of the intellect. Your mind assents to a truth. Just like that, the location of faith had officially moved from your hands and your feet straight into your head. This shift had massive consequences down the line. In the 19th century, new scientific discoveries seemed to challenge the literal accuracy of the Bible. This sparked a huge crisis of faith. And why was it a crisis? Because if faith is defined as intellectual agreement with a set of facts, and those facts are suddenly questioned, well, for many, the whole structure started to crumble.
So after this incredible journey through time and language, what was actually lost? Let's put it all side by side and just see what happened.
I mean, you can see the shift so clearly here. The main domain moved from action and relationship in Hebrew to social and rhetorical in Greek, all the way to the intellect in modern English. And just look at that last row, the opposite. The opposite of Hebrew emunah isn't doubt, it's betrayal. It's being unfaithful. But for modern faith, the opposite is doubt. It's a completely different framework.
Ultimately, the whole thing boils down to this fundamental split. We went from belief in, which is all about relational trust and loyalty, to belief that, which is about agreeing with a list of propositions and ideas. A lived posture became a private opinion.
So the story of this one word really reveals a massive cultural shift. An active, communal trust, something you could build your life on, was slowly, piece by piece, transformed into a private, intellectual belief.
And that leaves us with a final question to chew on. If we could reclaim that original meaning, if faith wasn't about proving claims or having no doubts, but was about living out a steadfast, active loyalty, how would that change the entire conversation we have about it today?